So a very good evening to all of you. I, Vibhu Yadav, and my co-host Meghna Naramali, as the student members of Kharagpur Data Analytics Group, cordially welcome you to this panel discussion on Acing Data Science Internships as a part of the Career Orientation Program of IIT Kharagpur. We all live in a world where data forms a very crucial aspect of our lives, be it from big companies offering us highly personalized content and products based on our underlying habits, or be it researchers being able to predict upcoming storms or the next wave of COVID 19. As Peter Sondergaard once said, information is the oil of the 21st century. I repeat, information is the oil of the 21st century, and analytics is the combustion engine. And I could not agree more.
So, with the CDC internship season lurking right around the corner, a lot of our Janta are unaware and anxious as to how they should go about preparing for the upcoming compulsory internship selections. To give them some much required funding, we have with us four amazing panelists who have backed some really impressive internship opportunities. First, we have with us Naman Paharia, who has completed an internship at Microsoft. Naman, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi everyone. I am Naman Paharia. I'm a fourth year undergraduate student from the Department of Electrical Engineering, and I'm currently I would be joining Microsoft as an applied scientist. Yeah, that's all.
Great. Next on the panel, we have Sri Varsheni Rajesh, who was bagged an intern at American Express. Varsheni, would you please introduce yourself?
Hello. Yeah. I'm Sri Varsheni. I'm a fourth year undergraduate student. I'm from the Department of Metallurgical and Materials Engineering. I'll be joining this summer an AMEX in the credit risk team. And before this, I have interned in fractal analytics in last summer in the field of deep learning. And before that, I have worked in the National University of Singapore on a research project. That's it. I would.
Thank you, Varshini. Next, we have Srinjayee Paul, who has secured an internship at Adobe. Over to you, Srinjayee.
Hello everyone. I'm Srinjayee, a third year undergraduate student of the Department of Industrial and Systems Engineering. I have secured a research internship at Adobe this summer, and I have also secured a research internship at Griffith University, Queensland, Australia for this summer. And before this, I have done a research internship at the University of Norway at Tromsø, all in the domain of machine learning and deep learning. Yeah, so that's about it.
So, last but not the least, we have Abhranil Chandra, who has done a research internship through MyTags. Abhranil, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm Abhranil. I'm a third year undergrad in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. I'll be doing my MyTax internship in the summers in Western University, Canada, primarily in theoretical deep learning. And before this, I've worked on large language model based NLP systems in University of Merit. That is it, basically.
Great. So, congratulations to all four of you for securing such great opportunities. Microsoft, AMX, Adobe, MyTax, these are some really big names, and I believe they would have been equally difficult to crack. So, I request the panelists to brief our Janta about their preparation journey and their experience in the selection process. Let's start with Varshini.
Hello. Okay. So I would say that in general for CDC preparation strategy, you can take it in three stages. First one is the overall how your resume comes out, like how many skills you have. That is overall a long-term process. I think from in between of your second year, around fourth semester, you all start developing some skills or learning some courses which you find. All this will add up and then make your profile as it is. But one thing I have experienced is that the last internship you have done, the one that goes on the top of your resume, that is the one that usually gets discussed mostly in the interview if you get selected for. So I would suggest that if any of you have any off-campus summer interns or projects going on with professors or even self projects, the latest one which you're doing, try to give like maximum importance in it, do every step thoroughly so that when you discuss about it in the interview, you'll come off as a proper candidate and that will increase your chances a lot. And apart from the normal general CV preparation, I would say that around like a month or two ahead, you should start brushing up on other concepts like probability and statistics for the aptitude test that will be taken before the interviews. And competitive programming is also essential to particular number of data companies. So I would say that in the last 2 months, you should also start focusing on CP, probability statistics, and the books like Heard on the Street, 50 Challenging Problems. So all this will help much.
Thank you for your information, Varsheni. That was very insightful. Naman, would you like to talk about your experience and the selection process?
Sure. So, for getting selected into a data science internships, you need to have your basics very clear. Basics on probability, statistics, um, a little bit of competitive programming, and along with machine learning basics. So, adding on to resources which Shri said, for probability, you can use Brainseller for probability quizzes and puzzles. Hard on the street, 50 challenges problems, and then you need to start with competitive programming, basics of how trees work, how DP work. Like generally, data science companies do not expect you to have very good competitive programming skills, but you need to have the basic algorithms. You need to know how basic data structures and algorithms work, and then you need to have your machine learning basics. All these machine learning algorithms very clear. You need to know how these work, what kind of loss functions are used, how decision trees work, and even some basics of ANNs or artificial neural networks.
Great, great. Abhranil, would you like to talk about your journey?
Yeah, sure. So, primarily for research focused internships in academic circumstances, your CV is very important. And if you have prior experience in research, that's a plus. Although that it's not compulsory, but it's good to have a prior experience in research because primarily that is what you'll be focusing on. Your statement of purpose is very important, and you need LORs also for applying to research-based internships in academia. And other than that, as the other panelists said, your basics of AI and ML should be very clear, and also you should have at least the basic knowledge of data structures and algorithms. Like you need not do code forces level CP, but yeah, the basics are important.
Cool, cool, amazing. Srinjayee, would you like to add anything?
Initially by gaining knowledge about the theoretical aspects of ML and DL. So you take up different courses, whether it be on Udemy or Coursera. I mean, that is how I built my profile. You do a few courses and then you gain some theoretical knowledge, especially about the classical machine learning and deep learning algorithms. And then once you have some like sufficient amount of knowledge, you gradually try for internships because you have to also build your profile, your CV along with gaining knowledge. You start applying for different internships, and then you start with like budding startups and stuff, and then you gradually move on to bigger companies or maybe like reputed universities for research internships. And then once all that is done, I think for the interview preparation part, as Varsheni has mentioned, there are books like Heard on the Street, 50 Challenging Problems in Probability. So you practice problems in probability, a bit of mental maths, because those are the questions that come in the aptitude tests which are required for you to get cleared for the interviews. So yeah, I mean, you gradually start with courses and then you do a few internships, and then that is how you build your CV. And for the interview aspect of it, coming from the company that I have been offered in, they would majorly ask you about the theory aspects and not so much about the mathematical parts of it. So if you have a good understanding and knowledge of the concepts of ML, then I think that would work.
So moving on, I would like to know about the experience of our panelists during the selection process in their respective fields. So I think we'll start with Naman.
Okay, so about interview process, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So in Microsoft, I had two interview rounds. First one was basic machine learning questions, along with a little bit of competitive programming. So they asked me uh, working of very uh, like normal machine learning algorithms like decision tree and how gradient descent work, what are cost functions, loss functions, and they also had me code a decision tree algorithm in Python. So this was first half of my interview, and the second half one was competitive programming. They gave me an easy uh, question. It was, I think, on two double stack, which if you guys practice lead code or interview bit, I think all of you would be able to do it. So like for Microsoft, first interview is generally machine learning questions along with saying, do you have a basic computer programming skills or not? In second round, it's more about what your resume is about, what projects have you been working on. So I currently work in natural language understanding and natural language generation. So my interview revolved mostly around transformers and about their working. They asked very in-depth question and about whatever I have written mentioned in my CV in all the projects. And at the end, they also gave me a real life scenario to develop a pipeline from scratch, like from the very beginning to end. What all models would I be using? What data sets would I utilize just to make sure if I can, if given in a practical situation, I can create a deep learning pipeline for it. So, and I think they conduct HR interviews for as a round three, but I did not have to give that. Yeah, I think that's yeah, that was my interview process for Microsoft.
Oh, great. So Microsoft does seem like a lot of effort to put in. On a similar note, Srinjayee, would you like to tell us about your experience at Adobe?
Yeah, sure. So Adobe had two rounds. The first one was the written test, which was like an aptitude round. So what Adobe asks in that test is you have a few DSA questions or competitive programming questions. You have three of them, and then so in Adobe's test there are no machine learning or deep learning or like data science focused questions actually. The remaining questions are completely about probability and general aptitude. So you have like different kind of puzzles and yeah, puzzles and probability questions, and then there's one section which is a subjective answer. So they kind of test what you would do in a particular situation. So they give you a scenario that let's say there's some problem that has occurred in your office and you are a manager, and how would you handle that situation, or how would you maybe handle if your colleague messes up something. So there's a particular situation given and you have to answer in like some 500 words or something. So there's a subjective answer, there are aptitude and probability questions, and then there are 3 or 4 CP questions. Once you clear that round, you go to the interview round. And in the interview round, for me, I don't know if this is the case with every other candidate, but for me, I was asked specifically on my CV. So I wasn't really asked, like my knowledge was not really tested on like ML and DL, but I was grilled on my CV very specifically. I mean, every single point that I had written, in my CV, I had like, um, majorly worked on supervised and unsupervised ML algorithms and a few deep learning algorithms. And they specifically asked me like what really was my work there, why did I achieve the accuracy that I had mentioned. So that was a very specific CV grilling session. So I would suggest that you be very thorough with your CV and do not mention anything that you think you can't defend. Otherwise, or in case you have written something, so there was a situation where I was not really sure of something that I had written on my CV. So when they asked me about it, like be very honest and just tell them that I am not very sure about this. I don't think I would be able to answer. They are not going to push you further. And then apart from the CV grilling, they asked me to code one question. So they shared a Google Doc and they asked me to like live code on the screen a question. So yeah, that was about my interview.
So next up, Varsheni, would you like to brief us about your experience at Amex?
first test was the screening test, had like different sections. There were like 10 to 15 MCQs that were based on basic ML algorithms and all. And there were like 30 to 40 aptitude questions, like general probability based questions. The questions were all pretty easy, but the time limit was less. So it would be good if you have like proper practice on solving simple probability questions. And in interview, I had two rounds. In the first round, it was general discussion about what are my skills, and they tested me on a few Python questions, one live code, and they had given me a case of how will you provide travel recommendations based on the user's information. What will you do if the data is less? What kind of models you will be applying? So the first round of interview was more case oriented, where they'll keep giving you certain information, and you can also ask for more relevant data, and then tell them how you'll proceed. And one advice I would give in this, that do not jump and directly tell you'll apply neural networks and everything, but go step by step how you'll process the data, how you'll do feature engineering, and how you'll take out insights, or then you'll start from baseline model, and then you'll tune hyperparameters, and then keep going ahead. So this will give them a clear understanding that you know the entire process, and you're just not randomly applying models. And in the second round of interview, it was a proper CV grilling interview, where they discussed about the project I had done in last summer about COVID classification. So in that they asked me about a few challenges I had faced, both technical and like in general work relationship challenges, and how did you tackle all that. So at the end of your internship, whatever project you guys are doing, if you guys can note down some points, like you faced a particular problem and how did you resolve it. So if you tell it, then that will be good. And apart from this, they also ask some puzzles from Geek for Geeks. There are some 40 to 50 puzzles. That is to check your quick math and working. And apart from that, there were one or two questions based on linear algebra. That's it.
Okay, so I see a quite of variety in the screening process of all the three companies. But one thing I can conclude is that all these big names do demand equal number of uploads. So onto a different field, I would like to know Abhranil's experience through MyTags.
Yeah, sure. The process is somewhat similar, even in academic research internships. So in MyTex, you have to shortlist 7 projects that you are interested in, and then professors, according to your CV and profile, will shortlist you and give you a interview. So in the interview, primarily the professors focus on what you've written in your CV, and they will kind of check like what you've written is true or not. And so what you put in your CV is important, and you should be able to write, describe, and defend all of those things. And if you have publications, prior publications, then most probably they are going to grill you a lot on those. So I had papers previously, so professors in my case mostly asked about those in detail, and like what was the objective of the research topic, and how I implemented the stuff, what were the results, and what improvements we brought. And other than that, some professors might ask a few questions regarding to the project that you are supposed to do in the summers. And that is it basically, like it's questions regarding the concepts that we are going to use in the internship.
So that's great. It was quite insightful to know about all the selection processes. And now, without further ado, let's get started with our discussion. So, first of all, Janta would like to know what are the different roles that companies offer in the data profile and how are they different from each other? Also, which companies should one target for these profiles? And is it worth preparing company specific or is a one size fits all approach better? I think we can start with Srinjayee.
Sure. So I'll speak about my particular role. So in Adobe, Adobe comes for 2 different profiles. So one is product intern and the other is a research intern. So the product intern is software based. So you have to like be deep into competitive programming for that. And the other one, which is research intern, is basically a data science and the machine slash deep learning focused profile. So what the role really is consists of is when you do the internship, they give you let's say around 10 to 20 different uh, topics in which research is currently going on in the domain of machine or deep learning, and then they tell you to select one topic, or if you do not like those particular topics, then you can also search and come up with a particular maybe a novel domain in which research has recently started, and then over the period of the next 2 or 3 months, you work on that particular statement, or that particular problem statement that you have decided, you have chosen, and you come up with a solution to that. So you either build like a product to solve that particular solution, maybe a particular pain point in any industry that you have chosen, or uh, so basically, like you try, you focus your research towards trying to building a solution, and then at the end of it, at the end of your tenure, you also publish a research paper. So I mean, Adobe pushes to to ensure that a particular research paper is published out of the entire duration of your internship. So that is so the role at Adobe is like more research focused, and you will enjoy it if you are someone who likes to create products and like likes to build solutions to problems in a research focused manner. So yeah, that's about the research intern role at Adobe.
That's great. Naman, what are your views on it?
So not exactly what roles CDs provide, but in general, data science roles are divided into three: data scientists, applied scientists, and then research scientists. So data scientists generally work on like given they provide data set and they are asked to provide inferences or make future predictions from it. Research scientists generally work towards developing new approaches. You need to be very good at mathematics. You need to make new hypotheses, conduct various experiments, and then come up with new models, approaches, or data sets. And like when you combine data, so applied scientists do the combined work of research scientists with an applied scientists. In applied scientists generally are capable of doing all the research work, but it is generally more focused towards uh, production line or how the company want it to be. Like you need to make company specific products instead of just a novel research or methodologies. So these are three basic roles which you can say are provided in data profiles. For CDC, I think Microsoft come for applied scientists, uh, Gartner and MX come for more machine learning based research roles, and even Varsheni AI come for research based roles. And for the question if you need to go company specific or in general one size fit, so I think at least for CDC it's better to go one size fit because you will be at least applying for all these companies and you need to have concepts of like basic all the basics clear, be it computer programming, statistics, probability, machine learning. So it's better to go for one size fit for all companies.
That's great. So, Varsheni, would you like to add something to this?
Uh, Naman, just like Naman said, he has covered all the different profiles that will be there. And coming to companies, like Amex works, hires interns in the field of credit risk team. Credit Suisse also hires for the same kind of role. Whereas there are some companies like Hyperverge, a new few startups and all that have started coming now. They hire for more like a deep learning engineer based roles. And like Naman said, I think like for CDC internship, it would be more practical for you guys to prepare overall as like a one size fits all preparation because you have limited time and there are a lot of various roles. So you just aim to prepare the basic algorithms of ML which will be applicable everywhere and your normal Python skills, and then you have done internships in proper deep learning field or NLP field or any research, then you cover all aspects of that. I think that will be enough rather than focusing on just one field like an ML researcher and preparing separately for data scientist and all. But when it comes to the interview stage before a day or two, you can always do a little company specific preparation by talking to the people who have interned there. Like certain companies have their own pattern of taking interviews. Like in the previous round, when we all shared, like some companies have more of a live coding round, whereas some companies don't. Based on that, you might have to adapt different preparation strategies. That's it.
Okay, so the next question we have here is how important is the CG in the analytics and research profile? So would any of the panelists like to answer this question?
Yeah, sure, I would take it. Based on my experience, I believe CGPA is extremely important, especially I think like for the companies that we are discussing currently. Um, I mean, even if they do not specifically mention a CGPA cutoff, a few of these companies will not specifically mention anything. But then when they are actually like maybe shortlisting your CV or like shortlisting your test results for the interview round, they do consider the CG aspect of it. And uh, for this year's the people who got cleared for the interview round for Adobe, every one of them had a CGPA above 9 or 9.1, and it was nowhere actually specifically mentioned about this particular criteria. So yes, I do think CGPA is very important, and I mean. There might be, I mean, you might hear your seniors, a few seniors telling you that this is not important, especially like from your in your first and second year, that you can like be chill about it and like not focus on your CGPA and academics. But I would prefer that you maintain a good balance between your academics and whatever other activities you're doing, because at the end of the day, when you sit for these companies, they are going to have a look at your CG, and oftentimes like a CGPA below 8.5, they just like directly discard your CV and do not even like care to glance through your internships, even if you have like some really great ones. So yeah, do focus on the CGPA aspect of it.
I think she's covered it well. CG generally is used as a threshold which company decides they won't be shortlisting people below a certain CG. So CG is definitely very important for CDC. But after you get, I think, after you get a shortlist for interview, CG don't really matter. But it definitely you require high CG to be to get shortlisted for an interview. So yeah, it's generally used as a threshold.
Cool. So let's move on to the next question then.
So I think everyone here in our audience has constantly heard the buzzword of CP or competitive programming when it comes to CDC. But I would like to know from a panelist how important is it actually when it comes to the various profiles in data analytics?
Numbers definitely will give you an upper hand if how so like even though you might not be using it actually in your work during internships, but I think like apart from the reason why they ask it in the test also, in general it is important to have knowledge about data structures, at least till linked list tags and queues to a good extent for everyone in this field, because after all it is logic based at the end of the day. But overall, for Amex, if you take, there were no competitive programming based questions in the test or in the interview at all. But it is one of the very few companies that doesn't have CP in it. But most of the company rounds, like including JP Morgan for quant profile, Wells Fargo, Honeywell, and like all many profiles which have data also. Recently, this time there was another company, APT Portfolio. They also had a competitive coding round. So I would say like most among like 70% of the data science profile will require you to do competitive programming in the screening test stage. So even if you do not do as much as you would do if you were into software or if you are interested in CP, I would say that you should have done at least interview bit and have had a decent experience.
Would Naman like to add something to this?
Yeah, so computer programming is really important for getting an internship. Like it's a great skill to have. So you won't be just uh, um, applying for data science internships, there are very mixed roles which use both machine learning and kind of software oriented. So you need to have computer programming skills, and like most of data science companies will have CP questions in both their screening tests and along with a live interview coding round. So like this is, you at least need to complete interview bit and low to mid questions in lead code to like, to be confident that if interview give you a computer programming question, you are able to solve it.
So I think this has already been partially covered that as per the CDC trend, a lot of companies actually test on TSA knowledge as well. So is there still scope for a student with no interest in CP but good knowledge in ML and TS to grab an internship here?
So I think there are a few companies. Microsoft, if I'm correct, as Naman, it comes for a machine learning based role, which is I think the applied data scientist role. So in that particular test, they ask like questions. They ask you to code questions which are like specifically machine learning or deep learning based. So this year they had like one question on NLP and two other questions on certain different topics which were particularly machine learning and deep learning based. So it's not like you do not have any scope at all, even if you do not know CP. So Microsoft comes for that. And then as I mean in Amex, in the test of Amex as well, they do not ask CP, and there are like more situational questions and like aptitude based questions. So it's not like if you do not have interest in CP, it is going to be a very difficult task to grab an internship, even like the companies in the bigger companies that you're aiming for. But yes, I mean, definitely having some bit of knowledge definitely helps. So I mean, in my interview at Adobe, so the interviewer asked me if I was comfortable with DSA and if I had any like, good knowledge of CP, and like I just straight away told it to him that I am like absolutely disinterested. So I actually, maybe I don't know if that was a good move, but I told him that मुझे बिल्कुल इंटरेस्ट नहीं है CP में, and I have like very little knowledge of this domain, and I genuinely believe that even in the test that you have taken, you shouldn't really have asked like comparative programming questions, because that makes no sense, because when you're coming for ML profile, why are you even like trying to test this particular knowledge? You can ask like, rather you can ask some ML and DL theoretical questions. So yeah, I mean, that's there, but yeah, some amount of knowledge does help.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, Abhranil, would you like to tell us, like in your interview with Pros, were you questioned on your knowledge of data structures and general purpose algorithms or what?
Yeah, so CP won't primarily be asked as such in research based interviews, but as the other panelists have said, having knowledge of data structures and the basic algorithms is I think is compulsory. I mean, you should have that knowledge. Otherwise, coding stuff will be in general inconvenient. Having said that, yeah, for database roles and ML research in general, CP per se is not that important. But yeah, knowledge of algorithms, the important ones, graphs, trees, is important. That cannot be denied. But yeah, obviously you do not need to like do 5 questions a day in code forces. That's like a overkill.
So moving on to another important question. I think a lot of our Janta would like to know of the difficulties that non-secretary department people have to face, and any suggestion that you have to ease this process. So I would like to put this out to Abhranil, Srinjayee, and Varsheni.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, this is a legit load that like people from non face. So a lot of companies, I mean, even if they do open up, so for example, Adobe had like opened up till industrial this year, like the subtitle branches and industrial. I'm an industrial, but the like among the 23 people that they had shortlisted for the interview, uh, there was just like I was the only person from industrial, and like all the others were from the circular departments. and like even when I saw like the interview shortlist for a lot of other companies, like the number of non-secretarial people were really less. Like especially in the day 1, 2, or 3 shortlists, you can like really see the difference, and you can see like that there's just like CSEC, electrical, and so on. So I mean, I'm not aware why this particular bias is there. But either the companies are not going to open for you straight away. So I mean, when the companies come for like the for the CTC process in the ERP portal, they're either not going to open for you, or even if some companies do not explicitly mention it, they do not just shortlist. So I mean, there are I don't remember the names of the companies, but there were a lot of companies in the first 3 days which came and which opened for all the departments, but they did not shortlist any person like beyond the circuitral departments, and like that was very evident. Uh, so I mean, if like there's no specific answer to this question, like what are the challenges faced? Like the challenge faced would be you face that bias from the company, and it's going to be very difficult for you to get shortlisted if you do not perform exceptionally well in the test. So I think uh, the, the only thing that like got me into the interview shortlist for Adobe was that I mean, after I had given the test, I knew that I knew that like I think correctly answered all the questions that were there. So like the CP questions and the aptitude ones, and like if let's say if there were like around 15 or 20 questions, I had confidently answered all of them, and I guess all of them were correct. That was the only reason I think which like made the shortlist. Otherwise there's like there is going to be a very clear bias that you're facing. So yeah.
Varsheni, would you like to share your experience with this?
So it is true that there are many companies which open mainly for circle, and sometimes industrial will also be included. But if you are from metallurgy, mining, naval, there are chances that a set of companies will not open up. And I think the percentage of those companies is decreasing over the time as the place comes put more effort to convince them to open up. But again, but overall, in specifically in data science profile, the number of companies which don't open up are relatively less. For pure software, there are many companies which prefer Surgical students more than these people. And if there are companies who do not explicitly ban the other departments, in those companies, if you have a high CG 8.5 plus, then you might stand a chance of qualifying for them. That is also possible. But I would say that don't stress much over like the few companies which you are not able to settle, because right now sufficient amount of companies do open for non-secretarial departments also in the past placement and internship season I have seen. And if there is any dream company, it might happen. It happens mostly that you have a particular dream company or a dream role, but then the competition is too much, or there is a specific bias towards a given department. Then you can always again try in those companies after you have done like 1 to 2 years of job. So once you have got a profile of a data scientist, then your department won't be that much of a barrier when you want to enter those companies. So you don't have to give up hope and be positive.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And sadly the bias is persists. I would like to know from Abhranil that did he face any challenges regarding the same circuital not circuital thing when he was applying for research intern?
Yeah, so fortunately, I haven't faced much difficulties. That's primarily because in research-based academic roles, your previous experience kind of matters more. In series, it's a legit load, but yeah, like, and if you have papers and all in academic research roles, it's not going to be a problem because professors mostly will give you some sort of a project, starting project to see if you can fit into the research atmosphere and all. And if you perform well, you are going to get the research role. But yeah, in companies, the bias is there, particularly in India. Though, like in startups and all, the things are relatively better. Like they usually do not uh, have that bias. But yeah, in CDC, in some companies, it's there.
Okay, so the next question we have here is what should be the priority among your CG projects, minors, micro specializations, research experience, and publications for this profile? Do PORs play any role? So, Srinjay, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. I think there are two things which are very important for like the tech-based roles, whether it be software or machine learning, deep learning, or data science. CG and projects. Projects are like I'm combining research experience, internships, and projects in under one thing. Uh, as I mentioned earlier, your CG needs to be on the higher end. So 8.5 plus is a good thing. 9 plus is even better. Uh, like if I would have to be like very brutally honest, I think even 8.5 plus does not make the cut a lot of times for like quite a few companies. So a 9 plus CG definitely helps you in getting your CV shortlisted. So that's one thing. And in your projects, research experience, and internships, I think one thing which companies really look for, and which gives a weightage to your CV is like FTs, which are like foreign research internships. So if you can grab like a good research internship in a good foreign university, then that definitely helps. So during my CDC, when I sat for my CDC, I had like 4 internships, out of which 3 were in startups, and one was a research internship. And I think that was the one which like gave the maximum weightage, and like that was the one which I was majorly grilled on. And like the interviewer specifically asked me how I got this research internship, etc. He was not really very interested in the other like startup based internship that I had done. um, yeah, I think a good research internship, like a good foreign research internship, definitely helps, and along with that, your CG. And now coming to, so I did not have any publications, so I'm not sure about that. Um, Coming to PORs, I do not feel PORs have a very strong influence for, again, for tech based roles. PORs do help in like product and consult based roles, but for tech based roles it's majorly your CG, your performance in the aptitude or the shortlisting test, and your internship slash research experiences that matter. So in PORs, like if you maybe if you have like some PR that is like on the higher end, maybe like if you have a hall president POR, or like maybe a Gymkhana GSEC PR, that can still have some sort of influence. But like other PRs, like maybe like normal society PRs or something, or like second year based PRs do not really help a lot. So yeah, and also coming to the minor part of it, I do not think that also like has a lot of influence, especially in my case, or like people in my batch. So like a few of them had like a minor in computer science. Even I was pursuing one, but like there were not really any questions or anything asked on that. So yeah.
I think in most of the tech roles, like either if you are going to research, your publications and research interns matter the most, and if you are going for normal corporate tech roles, then your projects matter the most. And for I think seeing additionals and minor and micro, I think that helps majorly when you are applying for like. MS or PhD abroad, then the additionals or micro and the minors come into help. But for CDC, the coursework does not play that much of a role. They don't get to test you that much also. And when it comes to tech roles, PR is not that much important as it is for consulting and management type roles. It is to know that you work well in a team and you're a creative person. That's all.
I might have a different opinion on publication. So, in industry, I feel publications are a little more valued than internships, because if you have a publication, so publication is something which really affect your candidates, because it proves you have the skill to conduct extensive experiments and then well document your findings. So, if you have um, a, a research publication in your CV, it would be a big plus, and I think should be the first thing which you have on your CV. Um, and again, after with internships and research internships, uh, so corporate and research internships are the things which your interviewer will discuss the most. minor and micro specialization do not really matter, at least for CDC internships or all the companies which come for in campus. And again, PORs do not really matter in data analytics source.
That was great to hear. Pretty insightful. So I think we should move on to the next question.
I believe a lot of us are still unaware of how to prepare for ML, as we spent our first 3 sems online and did not have the necessary funding. Also, we have with us a lot of freshers today who would like to know their roadmaps for getting started with ML. So, I would like to ask a panelist that how should one get started for preparing this role with no prior experience? Also, to what extent of ML and DL should one cover so it's sufficient for this profile?
So I think the first step is by you start preparing by taking some courses, and it has also given Coursera subscription, and there are courses like Python for data science or series of 5 course modules. And I think like if you start by taking a few courses, you'll get a base idea, and once you get a base idea, you choose a particular project or particular field you want to do more project in, and then you can take out some data sets from Kaggle, and based on the data you can try coding, and every time you have doubts and you want to learn more, there are a lot of blogs available. Like personally I have felt that till a particular stage you need courses to show you the structure, the entire path, how you're supposed to proceed. But after that, courses cannot be exhaustive about a particular information because they're trying to cover small parts of everything. So if you dwell into one proper algorithm, you can have to try to learn about the mathematics behind the basic algorithms like decision trees, naive Bayes, etc. Because these are mostly questioned in interviews, and students try to treat them as black box models that you just import them, apply them. Instead of them, try to get the mathematical foundation behind simple models. And one any particular in-depth model what you're working on, if you read like multiple 7 to 8 blogs on it, you will become thorough in it. I think this is like a proper thorough preparation that would be enough for internship level of questioning. And there is a YouTube channel called Start Quest and all. He actually explains very nicely about the different maths behind algorithms like decision trees and all. And there are multiple open source repositories. If you follow LinkedIn, you can get multiple sources. You can accumulate all the sources and use them.
I think Varsheni summarized it well. I'll just like to add that there is a great course by Professor Devashish Samantha, which is CS 4003, which covers all the machine learning algorithms in very depth, and like just by completing all the slides and resources provided, course, I think you can clear any machine learning interview because it covers statistics, all the probability distributions, and then very in-depth explanations and mathematics of how each and every machine learning algorithms work. So that's a great course if you want a reference to. This is for cities internships, like interview preparations.
Okay, so Abhranil, would you like to brief our audience about how should they go about learning ML from scratch if they have a research target in mind?
Yeah, so it's like whatever the other panelists said, that's obviously the basics. You should have your basics right. And then if you're focusing particularly towards any research direction, like be it in NLP, computer vision, RL, whatever it is, even in that, then you need to specialize, like you need to read papers and all. But that's from the proper research perspective. And for CDC, I think what the panelists said is sufficient. Even the COAI courses in MLFA is pretty good. I think it covers the basics as well. And the data analytics course by Professor Shamanta is also good. And yeah, the StatQuest channel is very good. It explains the distributions and all like in a pretty good manner. Like that is how interviewers ask in interviews. So that is, yeah. And for academic research internships, I think it depends on what where your interest lies. Accordingly, you need to read papers, try to implement them, and try to think about new research questions.
However, how important are Kaggle competitions for this profile? Do the rankings really matter? And do other miscellaneous hackathons matter for this profile?
I think that Kaggle notebooks are a great source for you to start learning and see like what all different approaches can be used for a particular problem, because when you're just a student you still don't have much idea. Okay, after the basic models, what all techniques you can apply, like data augmentation, especially for computer vision. I have learned a lot from Kaggle notebooks. Kaggle competitions are also obviously good. When you work on a competition, you try to work on a real database environment. You will have a lot of learnings, and along with competitions, I think winning Kaggle competitions is like a very high level achievement if you manage to, because it is open source and all over the whole world across different age groups are there. So even if you participate in it and then you try to take learnings from the other notebooks of the professional data science people who are Kaggle grandmasters and masters, if you go through their notebooks, your learnings can increase a lot. So it's a good source. And apart from Kaggle competitions, I feel like if you can take part in Interhall, data analytics, and other student level hackathons that are hosted on Data Complete and HackerEarth, you'll have more chances of winning. And if you win data science hackathon, that will definitely add a lot of highlight your profile. If you have actually won a hackathon, then you can discuss it during our interview also. Mostly it will be discussed if you have written on it, but make sure that you are thorough about what you have done during the competition, what all did you do, how did you manage to get the good accuracy and everything.
That's good to hear. Does any other panelists like to add to this?
Yeah, so after you're done with your basic courses, Kaggle competitions or competition and hackathon in general are a great way to improve your implementation skills, to improve your Python in general coding skills, and even learn about new methodologies, all the processing, like how to make a structured pipeline, machine learning pipeline from how to collect data set, how to process data set, and apply models and inferences. So your the way you approach a machine learning problems, you get to learn all these things by doing competitions. And if you won any competitions, it is a great point to add in your CV, which shows you have these relevant skills.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. And while this has been partially answered already, I would still like to know the views of our panelists on this, that how important do they think are prior projects and internships, and how much do they increase our chances during interviews?
So I think prior projects and internships hold quite a lot of weightage, and definitely when a company say your CV, a CV without any kind of prior experience definitely uh, falls short in front of CVs which have like a good amount of experiences. And that is because internships and projects basically show that you also know how to practically apply the theoretical knowledge that you have. So I mean, let's say if your CV just has like 10 courses that you have done, uh, I mean, it does tell the interview that, okay, you might be having a lot of knowledge about some particular algorithms and some particular concepts, but you do not really know how to apply those to real life scenarios. So, I mean, at the end of the day, when you are working for a company, I mean, why is a company hiring you? A company is hiring you because they want to make you solve a particular problem that they're facing, or they want you to build something out of the knowledge that you have. And for that, it's important that you have like hands on experience of working on real world problems or solving certain situations. And internships and projects always help in that. So, I mean, how much ever you think that you might be gaining knowledge from courses, unless and until you actually apply that onto something and like create something tangible out of it, you never really know that you're not really able to test your knowledge. So yeah, internships and projects hold quite a lot of weightage. And during interviews, it also gives the interviewer something to grill you on or something to talk about. So let's say if you like just have some courses and you only have like things which display your theoretical knowledge. I mean, as I said again, the interviewer might like ask you something on that, but till what point? But if you have like internships and projects, the interviewer can ask you like, what really have you done here, and I mean, why have you solved a particular problem, and like why have you chosen a particular thing, and how have you arrived at a particular accuracy that I've mentioned or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it not just like boosts your chances of getting to the interview, but it also like increases your chances of communication during the interview, which I think is very important. So you get to create like that kind of like a flow of communication with the interviewer, which is very important. So yeah.
Okay, here's something I would like to ask Abhranil, that suppose you've done some projects and internships in a completely different research domain. How much do they impact the chances of getting a project from a professor which is completely different?
I think it depends if you have work related to machine learning and deep learning, it's okay. I mean, you might have worked on some very detailed project related to NLP, and then you want to switch to computer vision related stuff. That is possible. Uh, uh, but yeah, I would say that since each of these domains are very large and there are lots of things to explore, you should kind of find your niche and start exploring that more rather than wandering about and trying something of one domain, certain other things of another domain. It helps if you stick to one domain and go deeper in it. But it's obviously helpful to have knowledge of other domains as well, because many concepts transfer one thing to other. Like transformers initially came through NLP, but nowadays transformers are being essentially used in computer vision as well. So those kind of things obviously happen.
Okay, so here's a good question from our audience. Say someone has gotten selected for an FD or research intern through, say, MyTax or cold mailing, etc., and it clashes with an internship through CDC. So, what should one exactly pursue? Would any of the panelists like to take that out?
Actually, there is a form circulated by the CDC before it takes place to fill your preference. Will you opt for CDC internship or MyTax or DARD or FTP? You'll have to fill these preferences before you appear in your CDC internship during August. So that time, if you have an idea of applying for MyTax or DARD later, you'll have to fill as according to that. And in case you do not get, you can obviously keep your CDC internship. So this is actually a proper regulation which you can check it out in the Career Development Center website or asking any of your CDC rep also.
Okay, that's sorted then. So, as we approach the end of our discussion today, we'd like to open up the discussion to any other question that our Janta feels has not been answered yet. So, if any of the audience has some questions, please type it in the chat box.
So there's one question that I would like to address. Like it was there in the previous slide, I think you skipped it. So the question was, how do we? I mean, where does one search for internship opportunities? Uh, I mean, there are a few websites or like a few platforms where you can search for it. One platform that has really worked for me, I think, is AngelList. So on AngelList, you have to create your profile. So you like feed in basic information and stuff, and then you can upload your CV. So like one good thing about AngelList compared to other platforms is on other internship platforms, there's like a particular resume template that they have, and you have to fill in information over there. So that gets like kind of difficult because you cannot really include everything that's there on you like your own prepared CV. But in AngelList, you can like just directly upload the CV that you have built for yourself without having to feed in information according to their resume template or their like platform's template. And then once that's done, you can just directly like there are filters, all right? So let's say you want an internship, like you want an online internship in the domain of, let's say, machine learning, and you want it to be like in the stipend in the range of this to this. So you can like put on those filters, and then like the platform will show you internships which cater to those particular filters that you have put in. And there are like really great companies on AngelList which are also verified. So this is one thing like which is good about AngelList compared to a lot of other platforms, like let's say Internshala or also Let's Intern, that the companies are verified, and most of the internships over there are paid compared to like platforms like Internshala, etc. So you get like paid internships from good verified companies according to your own convenience and like the filters that you have set. So yeah, that's a great platform for like off-campus opportunities.
What is the question?
What is the right time to start with ML AI? Like, in which years should you start with them?
The answer to this is like both ways. It's never too late to start. It's never too early to start also. If you have not started till now, you don't have to be intimidated that you have lost a lot of time, because you might have to put up a few more hours if others have started ahead of you. But since all the resources are available online, you can still start like 3 to 4 months ahead of CDC, and develop considerable level of skills and do one proper internship also. But I would tell you that it's good to start in the mid of second year at least. From then you can start, and then you can try for summer internship also in a startup. You can also try for a foreign internship abroad. So you can try different profiles also. You'll get time to explore. So it's fine. It's good if you start in the early or mid of your second year, I'd say. I'll be leaving now. If anyone would like to ask anything else, you can reach out to me on Messenger or on LinkedIn. Thank you.
It is nice having you here, and I'm sure our audience had a great time for it. So the next question we have is, how should a person exactly decide between a machine learning role and an SDA role? So as she said, in the middle of second year is a good time to start with it. So by that time, are we supposed to have made up our mind on whether we're supposed to choose SDA or machine learning? So Abhranil, would you like to answer this?
Yeah, okay. So it depends on your interest primarily. Like, I would suggest in your first year, you should try out different things. There's the hall level open soft events and data analytics events. If you participate in them, you'll get a flair for each of the domains and accordingly decide like what interests you more. Like, I think it's more than like looking at what kind of profiles comes more in CDC. It should rather depend more on what interests you more. If you are interested in ML and deep learning related research, then you should go for data science and AI ML profiles. And if you are like interested in building software products and all, you should choose SD roles. Yeah, I think it and you get the intuition for what you like primarily by exploring and doing stuff. So I would suggest in your first year and maybe even in your second year, you should like try out different things and accordingly like decide what excites you more.
Great. So were you always inclined towards ML from the start, Naman?
Yeah, I fortunately like had been doing ML right from the first year. uh, I didn't explore SD much, and like had explored, but yeah, it didn't appeal to me enough to pursue it properly. So I have been doing ML research properly since maybe not first year, but at least from the end of first year.
Cool. So Srinjayee and Naman, were you always interested in ML from the start?
Yeah, I think it's completely someone's choice to whether go for SD or machine learning interns. I personally was uh, a little more interested towards machine learning from the end of first year. So I started doing machine learning projects and courses, and then just build up my interest. So yeah, it's a personal choice whether to choose between SD and you can explore both of them in your second year by doing either CP or some SD hackathons or machine learning competitions and go for whatever suits you.
Cool. Srinjayee, what about you?
I think that was the case with me as well. Was more interested towards machine learning, but like what I did was, as Abhranil said, like in first year you explore more domains and like you try to understand like what is there in each of the domains. So at the end of my first year, like in the summer break that you get at the end of first year, I explored a bit of SDE and a bit of ML, and like within like 1 month or like 1.5 months I understood that like SDE was not really my cup of tea, and that is not something I'm very inclined towards. So from the from around July, August, like at the end of my first year, I started with my machine learning preparation, and that's when like I started the courses, and then my ML and like data science journey continued. So so basically this question is, I mean, it's totally a personal choice. You try out a few things in your first year, and then you make a choice. I mean, it's easy for you to understand what you really want to go into. I mean, you just understand that this is something that is for me, and this is something that I'm not really interested in, and then you like pursue whatever you want to. So yeah.
Awesome. So, is there a concluding note or panels you'd like to add?
So I think, I mean, combining everything that we have heard in this session, I think. So see, I mean, the domain of machine learning, deep learning, and data science is something that is, on the go these days. So it's a really upcoming domain, and there are like vast opportunities in this domain, and then there are like companies are opening up for this domain. There are like huge number of recruitments going on. So there are like many opportunities that you have. There are like plenty of opportunities like nowadays. Like gradually, I think ML and data science roles are taking over software roles as well. In a few years, like maybe 5 or like 10 years down the lane, this might be the case. So you have good amount of opportunities if you start preparing well. If you have a focused preparation strategy, like you do courses and then internships, and then like gradually build your resume from the end of your first year, and then so on. I think you have a good chance in getting placed in some of the like really big companies, or like some of your dream companies. So it's a good profile. It's something that's interesting. It's something that, and especially like if you're someone who is not very interested in CP, so like you do not have to go with that crowd and with that flow that sirf CP karna hai. So I mean, this, so like the best thing about MLDL for me was that it allowed me to like explore something that did not necessarily involve like a lot of heavy coding. So for people who are not interested in lots of coding, you can opt for this field, and yeah, then gradually build your profile and like have a focused preparation strategy, and there are lots of opportunities waiting in CDC as well as off campus.
Okay. So those were some really insightful opinions to you. So thanks a lot, Naman, Varsha, Srinjayee, and Abhranil for sharing your knowledge and experience with our audience. We really appreciate you guys taking out your time from your really busy schedules. This session certainly was very informative for us. Ajanta would definitely have benefited a lot. It was great having you guys as our panelists today. With this, we come to an end of today's session. Thank you very much for being such great panelists and such great audience. Thank you all and have a nice evening.